right, everybody. Welcome to Houston. Houston, we have a problem. We're on episode 152. Holy smokes. Like, 100... Just going over 100 episodes blows my mind that we made it that far. Boy, 152? Jeez, my knees. Yeah, so GME had a nice, 25% run today. I hope you guys managed to pick up some calls, because those suckers printed. Right? Yeah, they did all right. The rest of the market had a bit of a green day. We had some dead cat bouncing happening, but adverse news always coming out. Home sales are down 16.6% year over year for the month of April. That came out. The U.S. government is going to be basically altering the financial landscape so that Russia cannot pay back their bonds and will automatically default. So that's happening. What else did I have, Monkey? Did I have anything else? Crap, I forgot what I put on the ye old description. The SEC and Department of Justice really seem to be issuing a lot of press releases about fines and criminal charges being levied towards various hedge funds. None of them so far in our realm of GME and the meme stocks, but they seem to be orbiting around those guys, getting these little dudes first. Hopefully they'll get the big people who are messing with us. And then the U.S. Appeals Court basically ruled that the two-tier information stream that feeds these rich funds their data, milliseconds before we could ever get it on our level 2s, is illegal. So they may be eliminating that privileged stream of information that these funds get, microseconds ahead of us, and so that everyone has a level playing field, which is what I think IEX was working towards. But that's exciting. I'm all for that. I'm all about that. Let's do that. Okay, you guys want this. Woohoo! And it's off. And the After Dark one is off. We're good. We are solid. No double intro. I hope. Okay. Let's see what you guys are talking about. You know that I'm already 45 minutes behind the chat because I set the show up a little early today, and that's where we are. Don't blow out the green candles. BW Brand, I'll see you later. But you also ask, do I have any extra old books, 1700s, 1800s? I've got quite a few from the 1800s. I don't have any from the 1700s. No, I mean, I do have... Where are the... I may have put those in my mom's house. I have some family Bibles from the 1700s. But book-wise, I got a bunch of old ones. Let's see here. We got... In this shelf, I've got pretty much a whole bunch of first editions of... Rudyard Kipling's. I've got just a mess of stuff directly behind the chair here. On this shelf, there's a whole bunch of first editions. A lot of them date back to the 1800s. I've got, in the other room, also have another shelf of really old books. I sometimes find them at garage sales and read them, and then, if they're worth something, I sell them. The best one I ever got was I got this book called The Great West that was published in 1856, original binding and everything. And inside had this inscription from a man named Lieutenant J.A. Mason. He was sending it to a friend of his who was a captain on, I can't remember the name of his ship. It was a Union Navy ship that was going up and down the Mississippi. And he had captured it from a colonel at a battle outside of New Orleans. And so it's had this whole inscription, the date from November 3rd, 1863, all this stuff in there. And it survived the war on that Navy ship, ended up at this garage sale, and I bought it. And then I sold it as a piece of memorabilia for Civil War buffs a few years later, for a good chunk of money. And the guy who bought it then wrote this really long letter complaining that there was water damage in the book. I'm like, dude, this book was on a Navy ship in the Civil War. Of course there's water damage. Like, what do you think you were buying? But anyway, so yeah, gotta come across them every once in a while. Okay, Tom Zerlatka. I'm probably Zerlatka. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thoughts on the 50 million or so that is borrowed and not being shorted into AMC status sucker punches, or does that cover the failure to delivers? They may be borrowing to cover those failure to delivers. Sell them naked if you can't replace them. Borrow a bunch and deliver those, and then hope that the lender never asks for them back. But that's probably what they're doing. They could use that stuff and short it down even more, but at this point, I think they probably have failure to delivers to worry about, which would result in having to buy stuff that they can't afford. Your wife's boyfriend. Hey, Houston, after MOASS, I can't see myself staying full-time in the States. In your opinion, which country has their together the most? Oh, I get asked this a lot. People are asking me on the Twitch stream last night as well. I am leaning towards EU. One of the cheaper EU countries. Wheatwild's trying to get me to move to Greece. I've leaned towards possibly Portugal, maybe Italy. But wherever I go, I want universal health care. That is the number one thing for me. After going bankrupt once from getting hit by a car, I have no interest in dealing with private insurance ever again. This country's health system sucks. I would venture to say that probably EU country with universal health care that's got cheaper cost of living is game for me. Having nice weather, access to the mountains, all that stuff is fantastic too. So Muggy Butt would agree. She likes beaches. She likes mountains. Big dog can stay here. But yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards. And then, we can always adventure elsewhere. I do have friends that have moved to places like Malaysia and Indonesia that have really, really cheap cost of living. And, they're doing their tech jobs remote and they're making a fortune and living like gods. That also, can appeal. But that whole, I like first world universal healthcare is probably my biggest drive in that realm. Okay. Ed, do the days, weeks when the markets tank, S&P for example, correlate to FTD and expiring options due dates, especially with AMC and GME? Well, oftentimes yes, but today the market was green and GME and AMC were very green. But I think we're at the T35 for that run up we had in November, because there was March, because there's a whole bunch of FTDs that were reported in that time. All the last couple of weeks, everyone's like 25th, and here we are at 25th, and it had a run. So we were able to accurately predict this one. Will it continue? I hope so. I hope it continues, and we get a bunch more green out of this. I wouldn't mind it touching 200 again. That'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? Wouldn't you like that? That would just feel great. It would warm my heart. It would just give me a big old hug. I could go for that. Legacy 10 Productions. Houston, is this GME price action due to gamma exposure? Happy birthday. My fish wears a mattress. Maybe. We might see some now as a result. I think it's more that T35 date. We have a bunch of people who probably bought options for the 3rd, knowing it was the day after the meeting. So there's probably a big swell of those. And options have been fairly cheap the last few weeks because the price has been pretty steady. Not too much implied volatility, keeping the price prohibitively expensive. And if you bought 115s, you're basically in the money now, or close to it. You'd think you touched it today. So if you had any options below that, you're in the money, and that's a $25 range, or yeah, $25 range, $27 range since yesterday, that all went in the money, and that's got to be a lot of shares that suddenly these guys are gonna have to find somewhere that they weren't expecting to have to do. So yeah, so. Houston, a stray cat had kittens in my garage, very cute, but now it's infested with fleas. Tried many insecticides and growth regulators, but no luck. How do you deal with fleas? The only thing I've ever found to actually work with fleas is the pill. Frontline, is that what it's called, Monkey? The one I give you? I think it is. And I don't have to give one animal. I don't have to give the cat one. As long as one animal has that pill, the fleas are dead everywhere. So I just give it to Monkey, and they say once a month. I do it like once every 6 to 8 weeks. Seems to work. But I don't know if kittens can get that pill. You might be able to give it to the mama cat, and keep her. And once they bite her, they all die, and then they'll leave the kittens alone because they'll all be dead too. So that's what I'd look at. Talk to your veterinarian about what is good to get rid of your kitten fleas. But kittens are adorable. Meow meow. If shorts aren't out of Be Big by Friday, do they pay the dividend, or is there a grace period for them to get out? I think if they weren't out by last Wednesday, they have to pay the dividend. I think it had to do with the date of record, not the date of issuance, because you have to have the shares in your account to be able to get those dividends. So I think it's going to be then. It's going to be Friday, or last Wednesday, 18th. Yeah, last Wednesday is the day. So I think everyone's made their bed and they're going to lie in it. So this might be a pre-trial as to what we might see out of AMC. But AMC is going to be not AMC. GME is going to be a lot more shares given out than what BBig is doing. Sean Marcos, Chinese collaterals to be worthless, SPY collapsing, GME to issue stock dividends, all stars aligning. Have we seen similar situation history? No. That's why it's MOASS. It's mother of all short squeezes. That's why this is a once in a lifetime squeeze. This is tulip bubble stuff to be written about in finance books for decades, centuries to come. That's why we're here. That's why I do this little internet show. That's why I get to show you a different cool shirt every day of the week. So there you go. Where were we? Sad Boy Incorporated. Thoughts on swing trading AMC and sinking profit into GME. Also the show. Thoughts on bodybuilding. It is possible to clone yourself in a garage. How would you do it? Thoughts on telomere? Telomere? I don't know what telomere is. Telomere? Oh, repetitive DNA sequence. Okay. Yeah. Dendrochromosome. I don't have any thoughts. Microbiology is not my strong suit. So, you'll have to ask an actual but telomeres. Yes. I don't know about that. Thoughts on bodybuilding? Get big if you want to get big. I've been big in the past. It's fun. You can lift really heavy things, and people go, "Oh, you're so strong." I'd like to get there again, but I just haven't been going to the gym. But just if you're gonna inject yourself with stuff, do it safely. I guess. I don't know, but being strong for the sake of being strong is really fun, and being able to take off your shirt and hear an audible gasp out of somebody is also really, really good on the ego. That's also fun. I'm not at that point anymore. I'd love to be again someday. We'll see. Okay. B-Ball 3710. What's the appropriate time to accept no MOASS after the stock divvy process on GME is complete? 6 to 12 months? I mean, if they can make it to 4 months past dividend being issued and the price hasn't done anything squirrely, then they might be undefeatable. But I don't see the economy staying afloat that long. I think by fall, we're going to be in some pretty hairy straits. The the Federal Reserve today announced that basically, like, hey, banks don't have money to deal with this stuff. They did it in, that really boring, long-winded way. All they could have said is banks are running out of money, but they did it in like 5 paragraphs. Yeah. Chris R. picked up 113 put for GME, expecting them to hammer it down below 110. Hopefully my gamble pays off so I can buy a few more shares. I don't know what the expiration is, but they'll probably hammer it back down again at some point. That's what they do. Let's run. They get their cash off their calls, and then they hammer it back down. They get their cash off their puts, and they get it back up, and they get the cash off the calls, and they hammer it back down. And we just go through the cycle every few months, and they generate a lot of cash that way. The Aviation Channel, Houston, happy birthday for last week. Star Wars or Star Trek? Star Wars movies are fun, but Star Trek, I think, is better in the long run because they deal with deeper issues in Star Trek, and basically Star Trek is kind of oftentimes like Twilight Zone. They're like, these guys are in space. Let's do something weird this episode and see how they react, and that's kind of how a lot of Star Trek episodes go. Lower Decks is hilarious. If you guys had a chance to see Lower Decks, watch that. It is so funny. Tawny Newton, is that her name? I love that lady. I want to marry her. Mark Smith, happy birthday. Is this a temporary rise in GME? How long will it go before they knock it back down again? I'm hoping that we go for a week or so. Probably leading up to or close to that, the meetings we have next week. We got the earnings call and the shareholders meeting. I think they're 1-2 punching that because they know they're going to release something. They're going to try to hammer it down. They're going to release something even better, and they're going to go, oh shit. And that's what we're looking forward to. They may try to hammer it down post meeting, but it might coincide too much with the date of record, and they won't be able to hammer it down if they're being forced to buy to close out positions. So I'm hoping they'll get forced to close out positions. Would it be amazing if they announce the shareholder dividend and then do something else like, oh, it's also gonna be a cash dividend of 20 cents a share, $1 a share, something like that. That would be fantastic. Yes, and someone else pointed out that GME had 104.08% cost to borrow fee. So if you wanted to borrow GME today, you had to pay $120, $130 to borrow it. Oops, that's not fun. Just to borrow a share and then sell it for a loss. There's only 500 shares available too to borrow, so the supply is very low. There's not much liquidity happening. Unpaid overtime. Would you hold Be Big? $5 to the July 15th. Calls past this Friday if it hits $5 mark. Probably not. I think Be Big runs $5 soon. I think you're good. I think if they have a big run, it's going to be that 3 months, 90 days after they issue the shares on Friday. That's when you'd see like short hedge funds default on their obligations to provide those shares for the cash equivalent, and that's why I think we'll see a run on it. But I don't think the run will happen right away. I think it's going to be down the road, so it'll be after July, I believe. Artemis, happy belated birthday. I just want to say I appreciate you so much, and I always look forward to your shows. I can listen to you all day long, and I love learning from you. You're my favorite YouTuber. Oh, thank you. Oh, it's not. Why you guys really just like to make me feel good when when you write things like that. It just make me blush. Thank you. I like doing this. It's fun. Like the other day, I was feeling a little crummy, and I was just like, meh. And I came, I did the show, and I felt good afterwards. Like 2 hours of chatting with you folks, and it boosted my internal worth, and I felt good. I was like on a little high afterwards. even though my voice is always shredded after like 2 hours of this. But I love hanging out with you guys. I love the fact there's 500 of you just hanging out, and there'll be another, several thousand who catch it later. And I wish all of you could jump in at one time and hang out with me. That'd be fantastic. But I know everyone's schedule's all weird, which is kind of a reason why I do shows that are like all over the place schedule wise. Well, A, my schedule's all over the place, but B, not everyone gets to do the live show. So if I do a show late at night, maybe not so many Americans be in here, but a lot of like Australians, New Zealanders, people from Singapore, Hong Kong, or Europe are all in here. And so I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to hang out, ask questions, and spend time with us. Only BLSP Black Death. Hey, the dead cat is bouncing like crazy. My puts are almost dead, but GME is running, and I have no money. Arg. By the way, great show as always. You rock. Yeah, they're dribbling. That cat is being dribbled like a globetrotter, and but there's no good news on the economic horizon. Like, anyone find good news? There is none. Inflation, housing bubble, corporate real estate bubble, corporate bond bubble. Several nations are defaulting. Food crisis. What else? Duh. It's just not good. We are definitely going down. The Fed also revealed they had done like $200 billion in securities purchases when they had reported to Congress, and they reported it when they said they were done doing that in February, which means the plunge protection team has been at work buying up securities, keeping this market, like softening the blow of the market collapse. I think the biggest problem with that is if you soften the blow, you make coming out of it a lot harder. And I do expect us to see more interest rate hikes in the coming months to slow down inflation, slow down the housing market, stabilize that whole front, because we need to have a whole bunch of interest rate available as like cushion for when we start cutting again to spur investment and to climb back out of this low that we're in. So there's gonna be more of that coming. What, guys? Shut up. No. No one cares. No one cares, big dog. They don't. No one cares. You can bark all you want. The only thing you do is exasperate us. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Okay. Where were we? I lost my... that was Star Wars one. That was that one. Ichigo. My infinity pool at computer share might as well not exist. Supply and demand at its finest. And they still took them. Wait, what? What do you mean? You lose your shares at computer share? I'm not sure I understand what you're saying there. Oh, there's William Morgan saying the Fed purchased 180 billion in securities in May 2022. So this is just this month. We haven't done with May yet. They've done 200 billion. Yeah. Blair Barkley, diatomaceous earth, food grade, take care of fleas, bed bugs. Yes, diatomaceous earth works really well. It dehydrates creatures, so it sucks all the moisture basically out of them, and makes it so that they dehydrate to death. Oh, okay. First name, last name. Have you heard about the unusual correlation of Berkshire to GME? Thoughts? If not, I know your birthday is on a day you don't stream. Ha, got him. Berkshire Hathaway's been doing some weird things. There was some great DD. I posted it on my Twitter page the other day. There are individual funds and institutions that claim to own like over $4 trillion in Berkshire Hathaway stock. Like 9 million shares of Berkshire Hathaway stock. That's not possible. There aren't that many shares in existence. So there are sketchy things. I mean, if you want to make a quick buck, you naked sell a bunch of Berkshire Hathaway and then disappear into the night. Because why not? Well, failure delivers. I'm gone. Peace. See you, losers. How else would somebody amass 9 million shares? How many shares do exist of Berkshire Hathaway? BRK A outstanding shares. There we go. Yeah, there's only 613,000 shares outstanding, and these institutions claim they own 9 million of them. I mean, if you can do this stuff with a penny stock in the OTC, why can't you do it with a blue chip like Berkshire? I mean, there was a stock yesterday. There's 1.2 million shares issued and like 160 million shares traded yesterday. So if you can do it with a stock that's worth 15 cents, you may as well level up and do it with a stock that's $460,000. Just print them for yourself. Sell them from your market maker to your hedge fund, and show out your books. Like, hey, I've got 4 trillion of these things. All perched in the dark pool for undisclosed sums, but they're worth $4 trillion. Yeah, it's crazy. Fried tater explosion come from Wahoo. Price action GME along with the cost to borrow is getting me hyped. I think they will pull out all stops and drop it tomorrow. Already looking like the after hours. Yeah, it did a little drop after hours. I didn't check again recently. Where are we? After hours here. They pushed it back down a little bit. It's back down to 113. But I think we're getting into that gamma ramp territory where we just put $25 of stock of options in the money. You know, let's look at the options chain. Let's go to the options chain. Google Chrome's on. Okay, let's go Yahoo Finance GME options chain. Okay, who do we got? So this is May 27th. So this Friday, we have not too many in the cheap zone. We get into, all right, we got big numbers. We got 300,000 shares in the money now at $100 level, and we got another 100,000 at the 105, and then 110, another 100,000. 115 is the next jump. But if we get to the 120, then we're starting to get 1 million shares in the money. And then 125, where are the big ones? 150. Okay. So we're looking at some big numbers. If we get to 150. And this is not your weeklies. These are just weeklies. These aren't your monthlies. And then next week we got bigger numbers right off the bat. So we got twice as many at the $100 level, and we're jumping from there. So we might get some gamma going on this week as those come in the money, and they're gonna have to like buy shares to cover those positions. So let's do it. Let's get it going. Come on. Right, big dog? That's right. John Beatty, Houston, writing from UK, Great Britain. How do you see the stock running in correlation with the free shares? Do you think it will just run and run until they're issued with nobody selling? How do you think... Wait a minute, I'll read this again. How do you see the stock running in correlation with the free shares? Oh, like the dividend shares. You think it will just run and run and run until they're issued with nobody selling? Yes. We're not going to sell unless the price gets stupid prior to the issuance of those shares. And if you have the data record, you go past the data record anyway, then you're going to get those shares even if you sell them afterwards. Now, what happened with Tesla when they did theirs was there was a run-up. The shares were issued, and it kind of flatlined for a couple weeks before rocketing again. And if we get good news out of GameStop repeatedly, week after week, month after month, during this whole shenanigan, then we can be pushing FOMO along with the forced covering of these shares, and or forced closing of those positions too. And I think that's going to be our goal. So I wouldn't doubt if we see like a dip after date of record, and then a build up towards when those issued, and then a dip or a flat line after the shares are issued, and then a build up again down the road, a few weeks down the road, as you know the shares come out and people get all that stuff. And just do it. If aliens invade and try to conquer Earth, I will probably hate them. That by definition would make me racist. Not so sure how to feel about that. I mean, you can hate the invasion, but maybe not necessarily the alien. But because are the aliens a hive mind? Are they all controlled by a queen and they're like forced to think that way, or are they making individual decisions, or is there a totalitarian leader of the alien race that if you don't follow orders, you and your family are going to die anyway? Like what's the structure here for them to invade? It gets to be a tricky situation because I think like the alien, the xenomorph from Aliens, it's just doing its thing. It needs to latch onto someone's face, inject an egg into them, pop out a little dude. That little dude eats a bunch of people because it's hungry, and that's just the nature of the game. The predators, on the other hand, are big game hunters. Their entire goal is to go on safari and bring back trophies, and they respect a prey that fights back. But I can't imagine, like I talked about this last show, I can't imagine that the predator planet is just guys hunting all the time. They need someone to build those ships and to outfit them, and they gotta have factory jobs and guys working on power lines and people mowing lawns and walking predator dogs and stuff. There has to be a whole society involved in it. Okay. Where was I? Get me distracted. Okay, there we go. UK. First name, last name. My friend Landrew says you immediately refer to Fleck the Monkey Butt as soon as you don't know the answer to the question. Is that true? Know the truth, please. Shut my friend up. I mean, Monkey. What do you think? Do you agree? Yeah. If I don't know, I'm gonna ask the dog. She may one day chime in and say, "This is the answer you've been waiting for," but I don't know. I mean, I know what I know, and if I don't, I kind of rely on you folks in the chat to be like, "This is the answer," because that's the brilliance of doing a show like this. Come into it. You guys ask me a question. If I know the answer, I answer it. If I don't know the answer, someone in the chat's gonna pop the answer in there. I think it's a big scam on my part. I impart what I know, and if I don't know, I don't know. I can't pretend. It's all I can do is learn. You guys can teach me something. I will try to absorb it in my brain to the point where I can regurgitate it later. That's what I am as an educator. Wormfall, Houston, not a stock related. My wife and I stumbled across Waterworld the movie yesterday. Could that happen in real life? Ice caps melt, entire Earth is one big ocean. Ice caps can melt, but the Earth wouldn't become one big ocean. There's not enough. We go to the Google Earth. Doink. Doink. So, we look at the Earth. We've got lots of land ice down here. It's pretty thick, mile or two thick. We have lots of land ice up here in Greenland. Pretty thick, mile and a half thick. We have quite a bit of land ice stored up in glaciers in the Tibetan Plateau and the Himalayas. We have some stored in other mountain ranges around the world, such as the Alaskan Range, Canadian Rockies, the Cascades, and then down here in Atacama, Chile and Patagonia, we got more ice down there. But there's not enough to flood the entire world so that Mount Everest would become an island. There just isn't enough water on Earth to do that. If all of these chunks of ice were to melt, if Greenland melts, that's between 20 and 40 feet of sea level. If the Western Antarctic sheet melts, which one's Western Arctic? That is, I think, this one. If this one melts, that's 200 feet. I think in total, if all the ice, all the land ice on Earth were to melt and go into the ocean, you're looking at probably 500 feet of rise of sea level, which is a lot. Most populations live, like 3/4 of the planet lives within like 100 feet of sea level. So that is, a good chunk of the Amazon flooded. I mean, here, I don't know if you can see the numbers in the corner of your screen, but you're inland a couple hundred miles and you still aren't above 400 feet elevation. Along the river system, there's 200 feet, 200. So the entire Amazon to be flooded, 85 feet. So yeah, the entire river valley of the Amazon River is now ocean. That is one giant bay now. Florida, gone. Highest point in Florida is a garbage pile at 300 feet. So Florida's gone. Phew, thank you. Good chunk of the UK, gone. Good chunk of Normandy, gone. Good chunk of the coast of North Africa, gone. All the island chains are toast. It wouldn't be 28,000 feet of water. It'd be 500, and 500 would be more than enough to screw everybody over. Okay. Daniel Moats. Question, Houston. What are us going to do if GME gets as high as we think and Fidelity turns off buy button? Is there a reason Fidelity would? No, there is not a reason Fidelity would. Fidelity has dozens of exchanges they can put trades through. And they are their own clearinghouse. They are not a member of the DTCC. They do their own clearing with other brokers, and they don't worry about they don't have any liability of these hedge funds that are tied with the DTCC. So I don't think Fidelity would turn off buy or sell buttons. Project Sun, Houston. The NFT scams keep rolling in. Seth Green has a show based around a Bored Apes, but got fished and his NFT stolen, so it's halted production because he doesn't have usage rights now. Yeah. Apparently he didn't have usage rights prior to that. The Bored Apes actually still owned the usage rights the way the contract was written. Also, no one wants to watch a Bored Ape cartoon. I have a feeling it'd be just a miserable failure. But, Robot Chicken was funny. Andrew Stewart, if aliens do invade Earth, it will likely be some sort of life, so different from our own that we don't know how to deal with it. Can't kill space slime with bullets. That's true. Like if we have some sort of blob people, we just sprinkle salt on them. No! The slug people of Klazamuth 9 in salt, sodium chloride does them in. Just in my head, I know you're not big on TA, but have you ever considered tweeting your plays? I'm sure a lot of us would love to include your perspective on trades as opportunities come up. Not all financial advice. I mean, basically, I bought and hold the meme stocks I want and the few like tech for the future stocks I want. And then I just sort of been playing options on a whim. Bought a call when GME hit $87 yesterday. I'm feeling pretty good today. So that's kind of what I do. I don't really do anything. I don't swing trade. I don't day trade. I just sort of buy, hold, and then go about my day usually. And then when I think about it most is actually when I'm doing this show. And you guys are asking me like, oh yeah. Huh. Also, I don't do mornings really well. So like the market opens at 6:30 in the morning here, and I am not awake during market open ever. I'll have to like really force myself during MOASS to get myself to wake up early. Well, that's probably going to happen while I'm in Canada anyway. I don't have like crappy data working on that. Okay. Always on. Houston, do you think it will be fitting for Charles Gasparino to eat crow while he covers MOASS? Actually, how do you think media does a reverse when MOASS happens after all the negativity? That'll be interesting to watch. Because I think a lot of them are going to be angry. Like, what they're going to see is these retail traders from Reddit, they are bad people, and look what they've done. They're just making millions of dollars, and we're losing everything. And they're going to go like that for a while. And then it's going to slowly shift away from that because the hedge funds who pay them to be mean to us, their checks are going to bounce. And then it's going to become human interest stories. Then it's going to be, oh, this person sold their GME share at the absolute peak for this much money. What are they doing now? This person's life was changed by their investment into GameStop. This person here, built a new school in Africa with their money they made off of GameStop. And it's going to switch to those human interest stories because the people who pay them to talk shit, they won't exist anymore. So they won't be able to pay them for that. And I have a feeling that if and when we get our big windfall, we are going to be helping people. I'm sure some of us are going to be, probably pieces of shit who buy Lamborghinis and then lose all their money in 6 months. But as a whole, as a collective, I think enough of us have dove headfirst into finance that we know how to invest in the long term. We know that you can't spend all your money at once. We know that you got to pay your taxes, all that stuff. And that, we are setting ourselves up for long-term success, hopefully with generational wealth. It'd be really nice to have that generational wealth. Really, really nice to have it. So they're eventually going to have to let us into their club is what's going to happen because we'll have more money than them. And there's one thing they respect is someone who has more money than them. Parataran, howdy bud. Could you give a quick Sparks Notes breakdown of why MOASS is and will happen? My buddy who bought is having trouble explain it to the wifey. Thanks. Well, Parataran's buddy who bought. MOASS is all about supply and demand, which is the basic fundamental tenet of any economy, any market. You can buy stock and say, all right, I want this stock. I'm going to hold it. I think this company has value. And as an owner of that company, you get windfalls every once in a while of dividends, right? Your benefit of owning that is you gain cash as dividends. And you own that long term and it can grow and become a larger company and so on. The risk involved is that the company goes tits up, stock price falls, you don't get any dividends, and you're out. That's the risk reward. Now, hedge funds, on the other hand, hedge funds take huge investments from their clients, and the investments to invest in a hedge fund, you have to invest a minimum of $1 million. So you invest $1 million minimum into this hedge fund. The hedge fund takes the money. They buy fairly stable assets, blue chip stocks, and government bonds, and they have those assets, and they use that as collateral on loans called margin. And what they can do is, if you got $1 billion in assets, you can borrow up to 30 times that amount on margin. So you can borrow $30 billion and make quick plays with that money and hopefully make more with it than you spent. And then you can add that wealth to your assets under management and grow your assets, thus growing your ability to have margin. What the hedge funds discovered about 30 years ago, when while being on this electronic trading system that was created called FAST, is that they can generate fake shares of stock. And they can sell those fake shares of stock on the market. And if they generate enough of these fake shares of stock, they can drive the value of a company down. And before they have to cover those fake shares they sold, they can then swoop in and buy up stock cheaper and keep the profits. And so they started doing this. They're shorting stocks using naked shorting. Then there's a loophole where you can short this stock, dilute the outstanding shares by a whole bunch with these naked shorts, and you can drive the price down to zero. If you drive the price down to zero, you never have to buy back shares. And because it's technically not an investment, you don't have to pay any taxes on that windfall. You just made money for free and don't have to pay any taxes. And so these hedge funds for 30 years were basically bankrupting companies across the United States by diluting their pool of shares on the market, driving the price down to zero, and then walking away with the profits. Up until last year, when retail traders, led by Keith Gill, Deep Fucking Value, Roaring Kitty, said, hey, that's what they're doing to this company. And I think this company has a viable future strategy. They are in a market that makes $200+ billion a year. They're the only game in town, only hardware store dedicated to these gamers. And they're going to turn things around. I think we should buy and hold, despite the fact that these short hedge funds are trying to drive to zero. I think if enough of us buy, it's going to have some value in here. And enough people bought, and the price shot from $2.57 in March 2020 to $480 January 28th, 2021. And we short squeezed them, meaning the price got so high that margin that they borrowed on, the liabilities shot through the roof, and they were forced to cover or close positions. And our goal was to get them to the margin call point where their lender calls, says, hey, you've got 2 days to come up with like $50 billion, or else we've got to sell everything you own and close positions. And we didn't quite get to that point. We were really, 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 really close. And so the MOASS is when we get to that point where the price is high enough on our stocks and the value of the assets under management have dropped enough because the market is collapsing right now, that there becomes this huge disparity that's greater than the 30-to-1 ratio they're allowed to have. And if they can't come up with cash, which is getting harder and harder to come up with during a market collapse, then they get margin called. They fail that margin call after 2 days, and then the brokerage is required to liquidate everything they own and close their positions. And they're going to be forced to close their GameStop positions, and they will be forced to buy at any price we name. And that is the entire goal of MOASS, is to get these hedge funds to the point where they collapse, they lose control of their assets, the brokerages sell everything they own, and then start buying up GameStop to close their positions. And we can just sit here and say, price isn't high enough. Higher, higher, higher. And when it gets to a point where it's stupid high, we go, okay, I'll sell you a share. Higher for the second one. And go from there until we are all filthy rich. And if the brokerage runs out of money, then it's going to go to the prime brokers. If the prime broker runs out of money, it might go to investment bank. If investment bank runs out of money, then the federal government may have to print money, give it to the investment bank to then keep paying us until these positions are closed. And that's the game. That's what we're playing for. And I'm hoping we all get our Lamborghini money. Okay. I'm an hour behind, and I haven't even gotten to a chat from when the show started. Oh, yay. Okay. Where was that paratarian one? Latinum, does the gravitational pull of the moon keep the Earth's core molten? I'm sure it doesn't hurt. Gravitational pull of Galilean moons keeps their insides molten, but mostly the reason why the Earth's core is still molten is radioactive decay, intense pressure, and the fact that we have a fairly large core. If it was a smaller core, it probably would have cooled down a long time ago. But we have a fairly large molten core. It's very dense. The center of it's like 15 grams per cubic centimeter, which is on par with like lead and mercury. So we have a very dense core, and that's a lot of pressure. Plus, radioactive decay of tritium apparently keeps the core warm as well. Drew asks, volume will help me be able to see peak. People keep telling me to post split GME will only hit 20,000, and Super Stonk is just saying that to leave the dumb bag holding, I want to retire with MaxX shares. I mean, you get 20,000 per share. You can probably, if you got 50 shares, it's $1 million. Oh, and again, someone just put that right down below your comment. Somebody showing that 50 shares at 20,000 is $1 million. You know, that leaves you with 700,000 or so post taxes. You can slide that into a Vanguard account, and you're making 50,000 a year. You're making a yearly income for, a middle class American without a family of that much. That's a good extra chunk of cash. You can also take that $1 million and gamble it away in the market and get some more, lotto tickets. But, no matter what happens, we're going to end up with more money than we started with. Whatever level you got into this play with, when it's all said and done, you're going to end up with more than you started with. And that's a win. Just remember that. It doesn't have to be $20 kajillion. I hope it is, and I'm aiming for it. But regardless, you'll have more than you started with. Ham fingers, do you expect GME to rally for the rest of the week? Kinda. I have a feeling we might have some gamma squeeze happening right now. So I'm hoping that we see some more jumpage. I would love to touch 200 again. That'd be fantastic. That would be... My calls would sing to me. Houston, should we start wearing brown pants ASAP? Fetch my brown pants. Cruel Kind expects price drop from here until including earnings. So Cruel Kind thinks it's gonna keep dropping. Come on. Oh, there it goes. Now in the chat reset. All right. So that takes us back to... Oh, well, they cut off a chunk of that. So, Tree Man, McCool, Jackson, Houston, if you're tried programming, you seem like you'd be good at it. Back in the day, I did. My first career was as a network administrator, and I hated it. So any programming I've done recently was in astronomy-specific programming language called IDL, which is for reducing data in telescopes. It's a pretty dumb system that you could literally make a graphic user interface that does exactly the same thing, but for some reason they all want to spend $20,000 in the licenses for a code that was written in 1993 and is pretty crappy. And literally, it's so dumb. You have to program it every time. And what you're doing is, when you have a telescope has a big camera on it, right? Big CCD, huge, billion pixels, whatever. And there are errors that happen on that CCD. And I can show you errors with a CCD just with this camera lens here. Look at this. All right, do you see that there's a bunch of little dots there on the camera lens? Those are broken pixels. Now, pixels with errors in them happen in all CCDs. They're not perfect. They're a little, they're made by humans. They do their best. But there's going to be these little errors, these little pixels that get errors. And some of them are light errors, and some of them are dark errors. So if I were to, I don't know if I can show this might be not bright enough, but you'll be able to see dark errors if you have a light background. And with these big telescopes, each night you put the lens cap on, you take 10 pictures of the lens cap. Take the lens cap off and you point the telescope at a really bright white sheet on the wall and you shine really bright lights on it and you take 10 pictures with that. And then you go and you take your image of whatever it is in space you want to take. You might do 10 images of that or a long exposure or whatever. And you basically add them up in this computer program and you sort of add them up, average them, and subtract them from the image. And you pull out all the errors out of the image and it cleans up because the raw data image always looks like garbage with highly sensitive instruments like that. And IDL, you program in, I add these together, I divide them from, took 10 pictures, divide it by 10, and then I subtract it from this image. And I don't know why you have to spend $20,000 for a license to do that, because you can literally, for free from NASA, you can download a program called Iris that does it. You just drag and drop your images, say, delete these from my space photograph, and it's done. And it's free. And it didn't cost $20,000. So, no, that being said, I haven't done any programming in a long time. but it wasn't for me. I need to move more. I thought being a programmer was going to be my life, and I didn't like it. So I like teaching a lot more. Okay. Anthony Wilson, any update in your stalker doing his thing in your room? I hope my stalker hasn't done his thing anywhere near me. He better not. John Cruzan, what would be moving to the Philippines be like for an American? I mean, a Marcos is taking over the Philippines again after Duterte, and Duterte was a nutso murderer. And the Marcos family's previous dictatorship did not go well. I don't know why the Filipinos elected another Marcos, totally forgetting the past of what they had done to their country and stolen from them and abused and murdered, and 16 years of martial law, and that just doesn't seem like a path forward. If you want to advance your culture, it'd be like, us electing King George's son to now rule America. We're not going to do that. Or Germany electing Hitler's kid to rule Germany. You don't do that. I don't know how or why or what magic happened to that people are like, yeah, you know what? The Marcos regime was fantastic. They stole $10 billion from us, lived in these giant palaces, took huge vacations on our money, and left us poor and destitute. We're gonna elect their kid now. It blows my mind. Stonkonator, do you think MOASS is imminent now? It's coming. Each day we're getting closer, plugging right along. All we need is that GME stock. I think that GME stock breaks 350, it just runs away, and the hedge funds have no control. So I think that's what we need. We need that stock to break 350, close above 350 for a trading session, and it's on like Donkey Kong. Jersey. Elon Musk filing shows the removal of any margin loan from Twitter acquisition financing. Tesla stock no longer proposed as collateral for possible deal. That's probably why he sold off, $55 billion in SpaceX stock? Might be what he's looking for. Because Elon was facing margin call with the fact that he's lost $50 billion of wealth off of his Tesla stock alone, which is more than what he's proposing to pay for Twitter. I don't think Elon's buying Twitter. I don't think he is. I think they're going to do something. He's going to pay his $1 billion fine and maybe some penalties on top of that. But I don't think Elon's buying Twitter. Felix, do the GME board have to have an ex-dividend date after the announcement, or can they do it before? I'm not sure. I think they have to make the date of issuance at least 10 days after they file. But I think they can make the date of record even before that. So the soonest they could issue the shares could be 10 days after the filing, which would be possibly the 3rd or 4th. But my guess is they'd probably make the date of record sometime after the meeting, so that it gives time for these big institutions to recall shares if they want to. And that's what we might be looking at. Okay. People fighting about whether America's better or not. Seriously, just go travel, folks. You will see that America is great at advertising, but seriously, there are much better places to live. And I live in a really nice place. But there are places elsewhere in the world where you go, why did my ancestors leave here? I don't know. Okay. People talk about fleas. Mickey Smalls, you should go to Denmark. It's not cheaper or good weather or very mountainous, but it's nice. I'll visit Denmark. How about that? Killerus, if GME were to move their stocks to their own exchange, how would that work? Would they have to buy up all the stocks, not counting the naked that can't be left? They wouldn't. The hedge funds would. So theoretically, under the contract with the FAST system, the DTCC has, is that if there is some problem that the DTCC is either created or can't fix or whatever the reason, GameStop can go to them and say, hey, you have 90 days to give us all of our shares so we can move them to a different trading system. And they could take that record of shares, move it into their blockchain system, and then, but they have 90 days to do that. And in that time would cause a gigantic and massive share recall. So the DTCC would have to margin call essentially every single solitary creator of synthetic shares. And we'll say, hey, you have to write this ship. We need all these shares back. Because we can't have anything trading after this 90-day period. And so you and me and everyone else will start getting offers for our shares because I close positions. So when we go to close positions, give us your shares, give us your shares. And we'll go, yeah, I don't. You aren't willing to pay me enough for that. We can jack the price. And we can have a MOASS that way. And then if they move everything over and there's still shares lingering, then there's probably liquidation stages where they'll be liquidated, forced to close those things because they got to balance the books. There can't be any outstanding GME shares trading on that FAST system through those known exchanges while the actual shares are trading on a layer 2 crypto platform. So, yeah. Trey Spider, did you hear that Serganti Capital Management $6 billion hedge fund was cut off from trading? No. That is a new one. Where is my Serganti Capital? Serganti Capital. Bank of America. City suspend equity trading with Serganti Capital on block trade concerns. 11 hours ago. Boom. Boom. Yeah, whatever. I don't care about cookies. All right. Oh, of course, it's Financial Times, and I don't have a description. So we will go. Who can tell me? News. Bloomberg will make me. Come on, somebody give me a free one. Defense World. Well, maybe Bloomberg will let me read part of it at least. Okay, and giant advertisement. And no, thank you. Oh, okay, just get them away. Related to its wagers on large stock sales, according to people familiar with the matter, the bank made a decision to sever such activity in 2021. One of the people said, asking not to be identified, discussing private information. Citigroup has also suspended equity trading with Serganti though it continues to trade with it in other financial instruments, according to the Financial Times, which first reported the moves Wednesday. Developments underscore how financial institutions are taking a closer look at practices and potential risks amid a sprawling probe by U.S. authorities into how Wall Street handles block trades. Investigators are scrutinizing whether bankers improperly tipped off investors to stock sales large enough to send prices of shares swinging, with banks including Morgan Stanley fielding requests for information from authorities. Representatives for Citigroup and Bank of America declined to comment, while Serganti didn't have an immediate comment. The banks were both listed as Serganti's prime brokerage firms in December regulatory filings. Hong Kong-based Serganti was set up in 2007 by British businessman Simon Sadler, who also owns English football club Blackpool FC. The company invests globally as part of a multi-strategy investment approach, according to its website. After Sajanti employees, a former Sajanti employee was among a broad roster of names at banks and investment firms whose communications are being sought by the Justice Department amid the block trading investigations. Bloomberg News reported earlier this year hedge funds that participate actively in block trades typically maintain ties with multiple banks, drawing on those relationships to dip into the flow of available stock deals. Goldman Sachs Incorporated, which the Wall Street Journal reported earlier this year had also received requests for documents from authorities relating to block trades, cut ties with block trading hedge fund Islet Management. Bloomberg reported in March the reason for the decision and whether it related to the investigation couldn't immediately be determined. Block trading is one of Wall Street businesses where relationships still drive the flow of deals. Banks acquire a slug of stock from an investor, such as a hedge fund, private equity firms, or venture capital firms at a discount before parceling the shares out to discreetly to buyers. The aim is to price the blocks at a slim premium and avoid sending the stock price into a dive before the transaction is completed, which can inflict losses. Basically, everyone's being investigated for selling stock at a discount and then manipulating the price afterwards. These groups have been talking with each other, and they're not supposed to be talking to each other. They basically, this is where I think a lot of these RICO charges are coming from, is that these hedge funds are supposed to be competing with each other, and instead of competing with each other, they are collaborating and conspiring to do wrong. And so we're starting to see the baby steps of what cracking down on those racketeering gambits that they're doing is having. Okay. Yeah. I am always behind in the chat. So. Tommy Becker, do you think when GME squeeze, AMC will squeeze with it? Yeah, it's in the same basket, same ETF basket. I don't think it will squeeze as high or overall for as much, but it's definitely a squeeze. I mean, you saw today that it ran with GameStop again on no news. Let's see here. Why is Mullen highlighted? You know, AMC went up 14%, while GME went up 29%. So it followed right along. GME was a big player, but AMC, you know, little kid brother tagged right along. I heard the new Star Trek series is pretty good. The Strange New Worlds. I watched episode 1, and then I watched episode 2, and I got to the halfway point, and you have to watch commercials on Paramount Plus. And after the commercials ended, the second half of the show never started. And I tried resetting the computer, the TV. I tried deleting the app, reinstalling the app, and I can't see the second half of the show. It won't show me. It's just black. Nothing. So anyone from Paramount Plus, if you could make it so I could watch your show, that'd be fantastic. I want to watch my Star Trek. Jonathan, if the government offers a settlement, can we ask for tax-free? That's fair, right? Fish wears a mattress? I mean, you can ask. But I think the way the government settlement works is the government says, we're going to give you this price for these shares, and then the shares just disappear from your account and the money appears. Hopefully it's for a ridiculous amount of money and not for something that would make us go, that wasn't worth it. But yeah. Pickles Penne Houston, if most of the hedge funds are net short, how would a market crash cause MOASS? Because they have to have assets under management. And if those assets under management shrink compared to their short plays, and they have been shorting some blue chips, but most of their short plays are on OTC and meme stocks, stuff they've been trying to get to zero, because their goal is to make a pile of money and never have to pay taxes on it. That's basically them winning twice. And if they have to close positions for any reason, then they lose. So their goal is to drive these things to zero, and they know they can't drive Facebook to zero, they can't drive Amazon to zero, they can't drive Microsoft to zero. Those are desperation plays to get quick cash. But the tax penalties on it are pretty great, and so when you see that huge put action on PayPal or something, Snapchat, almost half of that had to get paid back in taxes immediately. So it's a desperation win for them in the end. Felix, much love to the families and friends of the kids and teachers in Texas. Yes. Our country just is so messed up, man, that people often just go and just blow away little kids. I don't get it. I don't understand the drive, the mentality, the obsession with it. What drives someone to do it? Why we allow them to have access to things to do that with? It doesn't make any sense to me. I've lost too many people to gun violence in my life, and I live in a really safe, crime-free community. My neighbor was killed at the Las Vegas shooting at that country music concert in 2017. My little sister's best friend, who she ran a camp with every summer in Pennsylvania, was the geography teacher who was killed at Parkland, shielding his kids from the neo-Nazi gunmen. We gotta do better, and we have to actually change our society and the laws we have in place. I know there's probably some of you who are like, Second Amendment all the way, but misinterpreting the Second Amendment does not mean that we don't ever have to curb the use or access to guns. Here's what we'll do. You get me on a little rant time now. We're going to rant it up. Article 1, Section 8, Constitution. Okay. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. So, Clause 8. Property. Militia. Here we go. So it gives war powers to the government and states the militia, what the militia is. And the militia provide calling forth the militia to execute laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, repel invasions. Basically, the militia's job is to take orders from the government, right? You are a member of the militia. The government says, hey, a call to arms. Go fight these guys off. Go protect these things. Do whatever. Not to cause an insurrection, but to suppress insurrections. So the folks that were like, we're just doing our mark of duty to try and take over the government on January 6th. Those guys, the militia's job was to suppress those guys, not to support those guys. To provide, so this is the Congress, is to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, right? So the Congress has to write rules as to how the militia is to be operated, to regulate the militia. And for government, such part of them may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states, respectively, the appointment of officers. Meaning, Congress and the government dictates how the militia operates, but the states get to pick who's in the militia. And the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. Meaning, if you are a member of the militia, you are trained by rules established by Congress. Okay. That is the well-regulated militia. So when we get to the Second Amendment, and it says a well-regulated militia, what's the exact wording? Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state. So, where's the militia regulated? Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. And what's it say? It says that arming and disciplining and training and organizing is all the responsibility of the federal government. So, if you are not trained and you are not armed by the federal government, you are not a member of the militia. You are not part of the well-regulated militia. So, here, it says a well-regulated militia being necessary to secure the free state. Since the well-regulated militia is determined in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, they are saying that if you are a member of the militia, you have the right to bear arms. If you're not a member of the militia, you do not have the right to bear arms. Why? Because their arms are not provided by the federal government. which is what's stipulated in there. So, if Congress can define who's in the militia, we can definitely regulate firearms, and we can definitely make it so that, whack jobs who on their 18th birthday go out and buy an AR-15 and then immediately go murder a bunch of children are limited in that ability to do so. We really need to do something about this. What I would propose is you basically make a grace period, 2 years. You say, okay, over the next 2 years, everyone with a firearm needs to register, license, title, get insurance, whatever, for their firearms that exist. After that 2-year grace period is done, any new weapon sales have to be done through a bonded and licensed broker or dealer. No straw man purchases, no gun show loopholes, none of that stuff. It has to be through a bonded, licensed, and regulated seller. And when that gun is sold, along with it is like a title document like you would have when you sell your car. You include the pink sheet, registration, whatever. From that point forward, after that 2-year grace period is up, if you are found with a weapon that's unregistered, that weapon is taken, thrown into a pot and destroyed, and you just go to prison for the rest of your life. That's what they do in Japan. If you have an unregistered weapon, you just go to prison and you never come out. It makes it so scary to own a gun that the Yakuza won't even go near them, right? And that way, only people who should have guns and willing to do the training and classes and licensing and get the insurance and all that stuff will have them. Other nations that regulate their firearms this way, they have militias. Switzerland has it. And if you have a required gun, because remember the militia, you're required to have safe storage for it. Someone comes along, inspects, and makes sure you store your weapon safely. Because that's regulation, man. That's what you do. So I don't subscribe to, we have to sacrifice a bunch of kids every year for the right to bear arms. With that right comes responsibility, and people seem to neglect the responsibilities in there. Everyone says that they're I'm a responsible gun owner, but 600,000 guns a year are stolen from responsible gun owners, and those guns become nothing but guns for criminals. So, if your gun gets stolen, what about a law that says if your gun is stolen, you lose the right to have guns because you weren't a responsible gun owner? If you're a member of the military and your M4 disappears, you're going to be court-martialed. You must be treated like a member of the military if you are going to be part of this militia. And if your gun vanishes, you just broke protocol and you're going to be court-martialed and face the consequences for that. So I think that we, as a nation, need to actually start regulating the militia. Because we had a militia member break into a school yesterday and murder 20 kids. We had a militia member last week go into a grocery store and blow away 10 people based on the color of their skin. My little sister's best friend was killed by a neo-Nazi militia member who had carved a swastika into the handle of his gun. I don't accept that we can't make this better. If you want to pretend like you're a member of the militia, then fucking suit up, do the push-ups, and do what you're told by your superior officers. That's what members of the militia do. It's not just a bunch of fat guys running around the woods playing army for their white supremacist dreams. It's not a bunch of criminals, doing drug deals and taking over turf. You are going to have to actually act as if though you are a member of that militia and heed by these rules to provide organizing, arming, disciplining the militia, and authority of training the militia according to discipline prescribed by Congress. You want that right to bear arms? You do what you're told. That's your job. And the right to bear arms is not to protect from the tyranny of the government. No. It says right here that to provide the calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, repel invasions. Your job is to do what you're told. You are an arm of that government. Your job is to say aye, aye, sir, and follow your orders. You are not there to be like, government, I'm going to kill all the government. That's not your job. So yeah, we can regulate this crap. because the Constitution specifically tells us exactly how to regulate the militia. Right there, in 2 paragraphs. It's so easy. And everyone else, the foreign people watching this show are like, yeah, man, I don't get it. They'll say, oh, it took our guns and took away our freedoms. Every other democracy in the world regulates their guns, and they're doing just fine. Protecting democracy is much more important than letting people blow away a bunch of school kids who, just show up to school to read Berenstain Bears and learn their shapes and colors. It's disgusting. And we need to do better, and we can do better. But my fear is that the NRA is so powerful that we won't do better. And the NRA does not have your interests in mind. They don't care. They took $80 million from Dmitry Firtash, a Russian mobster, who then sent his honeypot, Maria Butina, a spy for the Russian government, into the United States to then sleep with a whole bunch of congressmen and launder that money through the NRA to their campaigns. Right? They don't care about America. They don't care about freedoms. They don't care about rights. They just care about the gun lobby making as much money as they can. And, 6% of Americans own 25% of all the firearms on Earth. All the privately owned firearms on Earth. 6% of Americans own half of the guns in the United States. And only 1 in 3 families own a gun. So, 1/5 of gun owners own 155 million or more guns. That's like 18 million people own 155 million guns. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. And folks will say, "Oh, you try to ban guns, criminals will still get guns." Herp derp. Just like trying to ban drugs. Are you saying that you're physiologically addicted to guns? That you need guns so bad that you go into withdrawals and you can't function? All you can think about is like the next gun fix. I don't believe that. I think that we have a bunch of folks who don't know what manhood is all about, and they try to equate manhood with owning the biggest, scariest gun they can because it thinks it gives them some sort of power edge. But as we saw with the police officers there in Texas, the cops ran and hid in their cars when they saw that he had armor on, and like, oh, we can't do anything. And this guy went in and murdered a bunch of kids. So the whole good guy with a gun mantra is just a bunch of bullshit. Good guys with guns just get shot in the head just like everybody else. Or they cower in the corner. Guns are an offensive weapon, not a defensive weapon. They are designed to kill things, and they need to be regulated as such. It's just gruesome. And we don't need more school kids getting blown away because, you got a tiny dick and think running around your camouflage makes you a real man. That's not it. And if you can't pass the requirements to become a member of the military, you aren't a member of the militia, and you don't get the right. You gotta put in the time, put in the effort. The guy that blew away all those people in Las Vegas who killed my neighbor, he was too old to be part of the militia. He never would have been accepted. So he didn't have the right to own a gun because he could never physically be a member of the militia in the first place. So, why not use that as a regulation? If you're too young, too old, too fat, too crippled, not mentally healthy enough, you don't get to be a member of the militia. Simple as that, man. Yeah. So there's your rant for today. I'm sick of little kids dying. Be better than that. Okay. Now I'm like 5 years behind in the chat. Okay. Pam the Trader, Top Gun Maverick was a great movie last night. I thought Top Gun Maverick doesn't open until Friday. How'd you see it already, Pam? How'd you see it already? Purpley outside. Are you single, Houston? Yeah, I just have monkey butt. Monkey butt's my lady. That's it. Now everyone's asking if I'm single. Okay. Chakuseki. Praise be to brave Greg Abbott, who was willing to sacrifice the elderly for the economy, and now the children for the elder gun god NRA Hotep. Yeah. We can do better. You guys all know we can. And the solution isn't like, oh, well, they got past these armed school security, so maybe we should give kids and teachers guns now, too. That's not the solution. Giving people more guns has never been the solution. When we had pockets of society that had almost 100%, were almost 100% armed, we had the most violent societies in human history. San Francisco, between 1849 and 1851, 1848, 1849, and 1851, they saw so many murders, it was crazy. There's one pier in Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco that would see 3 murders a night for an entire year. This is a town that was a population of 30,000 people. 3 murders a night. 1 in 30 people in San Francisco were murdered on that pier, that one specific pier. And everybody had a gun. All of them were like, woo! It didn't protect people. It just got them all murdered. Like, there was a mining camp, Paradise, the town that burned down a couple years ago. It was originally a mining camp during the 49ers, and I wrote about this in my thesis. There was no law enforcement back then, so everyone was armed. There was posses and everything. You had a greater chance of being murdered in Paradise mining camp than you did to die in any battlefield in World War II. We're talking Eastern Front, Normandy, Iwo Jima, right? Any battle in World War II, you were safer than being a miner in Paradise mining camp in 1849. And everyone was armed. So, it's giving your 70-year-old kindergarten teacher a Glock and expect her to stop a guy when the school resource officer didn't do shit when hid in his car is not. I mean, the teacher is probably braver than that cop anyway. I mean, all these stories are the poor teacher was trying to shield her kids and got blown away. It's I don't know, fucking cops. You got me pissed off at cops last show, and now I'm just being more pissed off of them this time around. To serve and protect is just a bunch of garbage bullshit slogan they put on all their cars. They don't serve, they don't protect. They just go, oh, it's dangerous. Did you know that cops, if you're a police officer, you are 25% less likely to be murdered than you are if you're an average citizen of the United States? It is technically safer to be a cop than to be just like some dude. Like, the murder rate for cops, 3.86 per 100,000. The murder rate for the average American is 4.96 per 100,000. You are safer as a cop. You are 14 times more likely to die as a pizza delivery man than you are as a cop. So don't give me this bullshit about, it's a dangerous job. I take on more risk just walking out of my house every day than I do if somebody puts on a badge. And yeah, you signed up to be a cop. You signed up to put your life on the line. That's the job. And the shooter had armor, so we went and hid in the car and asked for backup while he blew away 20 school kids. This is just stupid. You go in there and you sacrifice yourself. That's your job. That's where you're paid. That's where you're paid the big bucks. That's why you want all the respect from everyone. Well, go fucking do it. Don't be like, oh, scaled. What's the point of all your training? What's the point of learning, how to take down suspects and Jesus Christ. It's just so frustrating that we have the combo of ineffective law enforcement officers and ineffective gun laws that allow pretty much any rando asshole to just blow away a bunch of school kids. And those two things are so freaking divergent from each other that they can't actually cross and do their job. And just it's gross. It's gross. We don't need to blow away kids. We need to be better than that, man. And sucks. Just sucks. And then, Craig Abbott's can go speak at the NRA convention on Friday and be like, look at all these great things that I did. I now allow 18-year-olds to buy F-15s. 3 days after a kid on his 18th birthday bought 2 AR-15s and killed a bunch of kids. You know, you're going to buy an AR-15, go to boot camp, do a bunch of push-ups, learn all the rules, learn to follow orders, do all that stuff, and then after you've been trained and licensed and everything else, then you get to have your government-issued gun in your house, and it must be kept under lock and key and available to inspection by superior officers at any time, and then you're a member of the militia. Until then, that's what I say. Okay. Okay. People still talking about fleas in here. Okay, all right. I've spent the last 30 minutes ranting, so now we can... Jigish Shukla. Jigish Shukla. I think that's how you say it. Houston, where can we put our money if we believe in helium-3? That's hard because all the groups that are going to be focused on mining that are not yet publicly traded. The big ones are Blue Origin and Planetary Resources. Blue Origin is Jeff Bezos. Planetary Resources was founded by one of the guys from Google. And neither of those are publicly traded. The other big ones are the nations of Japan, India, and China. And of course, those nations aren't publicly traded. Someday, Blue Origin will be publicly traded, and it will be worth a boatload. But until then, you know, we can just got to sit and twiddle our thumbs. I'm sure if you're some sort of cajillionaire, you might be able to approach Blue Origin or someone as like, hey, I want to give $5 billion to your company. How do I do that? You might be able to get some sort of private equity thing going, but it's not publicly traded yet. And then, but there are, you can invest in companies that SpaceX is owned by and trade those like shares. But unless you're a big private equity person, you don't have any access to actual SpaceX shares as well. Someday they will go public, but SpaceX really hasn't, they've not really announced anything towards space mining as a goal. They've talked much more about like colonization on Mars, making colonies on the moon, but not saying specifically what it's for. So they I don't know if they may just not talk about it or they just don't care. But if you're focused on Mars, you are not focused on space mining because Mars is freaking useless. It's just a bunch of basalt with nothing in it. So there's no money to be made there. But Starlink is going to make a fortune. Starlink is going to take over, and eventually we'll have Starlink phones. We won't have regular cell phones anymore because we won't have to worry about having our calls dropped, and it'll be ubiquitous. Okay. Zach G, is the vote for the dividend the question that says raise the float to $1 billion? That is, the dividend's already been approved. So they can do that right now and then give everyone, 3-1? Right now with the amount of authorized shares that currently exist. But I don't think they want to clear out all of their holdings that way. So they asked for the increase the float to $1 billion so they can make the dividend something more significant and still have shares in a reserve if they ever need to sell and raise money in the future. So that was the question for the earnings, the shareholders meeting. Vanilla Gorilla, AMC 402 candle today. Exercise options? Please explain huge difference. Happy birthday, Houston. What's the 402 candle look like? Okay. Got big candle on GME right before close, and then AMC. Nope. AMC candle 10. 1 o'clock. We had 91,000 right after close. All right. And then GME had a huge candle at 1:30. 224,000 at 1:30 for GME. That's a lot. That's the second highest candle, third highest candle all day, second highest candle. Second highest candle all day was after hours. Interesting. Perhaps folks were exercising options. So like, you know what? We're in the money. Exercise. Yeah. Monkey, do you know? I don't know. I'm asking you. Do you know? Your head's poking up. You're looking at us. You're saying, yeah? Exercising options? Monkey telepathically said yes, exercising options. So your guess was right, Vanilla Gorilla. So there you go. Jersey, 10 reasons to not move to Seattle. It rains all the time. You're stuck with me. You don't like green, and you don't like oceans, and you don't like mountains. It's expensive. Very expensive here. Oh, that's not 10 out of 10, but it's a good start on the list. Okay. I'm going to scoot ahead a little bit here in the chat because I got stuck ranting for so long that I am like an hour and a half behind. So let's get back into here. Okay, let's see here. All right. Okay. Angel Flores says Cryptide is delayed. What? They're not going to be offering on the 27th like they said? Monkey, what do you think? Come here. Come on. Come on. Are you going to go up there? All right, fine. All right, maybe I should skip past my rant stage here. Okay. Maybe I can't ignore. M4 says there's no restricting the right to bear arms. It is a fundamental right to defend yourself, government or otherwise. You need to read case law, not Google. So, if we want to talk about case law, for 244 years, the courts ruled again and again and again that the right to protect yourself was not at all in the Constitution as part of the Second Amendment. There's no part of it. That the government can and will issue regulations to those firearms. It's only when we got to the Heller decision with the conservative majority Supreme Court, where a good chunk of those Supreme Court justices were appointed by a president who had, not won the popular vote, decided to then make it about self-defense. And there's nothing in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, nor anything in the Second Amendment that says you have a right to own a gun to defend yourself. It specifically says you have a right to own a gun, to be a member of the militia, and to do what the government tells you to do. And so that's what the law says. So no, the current Supreme Court was wrong on the Heller decision, and it went against 240 years of precedent. So, just because a court was wrong doesn't mean the law was right. That makes sense? Just like how this court is going to get rid of woman's right to choose whether they want an abortion or not, they are basing it upon basically saying like, yeah, my religion doesn't like abortion, therefore the Fourth Amendment no longer exists. That's kind of their ruling according to that release of the draft opinion. So, just because you have a bunch of assholes in charge doesn't make them right. And we've got, six of the current justices, five of the current justices of the Supreme Court were appointed by a president who lost the popular vote. That's not how you run a democracy. Yeah, we're going to take this minority opinion that's against everything everyone believes, and we're going to put those people in charge who are going to rule based entirely upon their religious predilections. Amy Coney Barrett, she's a member of a Catholic cult that was the basis for which Handmaid's Tale was written. Margaret Atwood based The Handmaid's Tale on that specific religious cult Amy Coney Barrett's a member of. 90% of Americans want to see stricter gun regulations. 90%. They want to see universal background checks. They want to see red flag laws. They want to see elimination of gun show and private sale loopholes and straw man purchases and all these things. 90%. 9 out of 10, meaning 9 out of 10 of you right now in this chat totally agree with this as well. 70% believe in a woman's right to choose. So we have a democracy where a majority is saying, hey, we want this. And somehow, because of our crappy electoral system and our crappy system of Senate representation, means a minority gets to be in control. And that's not democracy. That's not even a representative democracy. That is a broken system. And we need to change that. And the sad thing is that you can't change it through the ballot box because the ballot box is rigged against you. We have instances where, entire political parties are dependent upon winning by keeping people from voting. And if they can keep people from voting, then they can win and they can consolidate power. You should be on the side of trying to get everyone possible to vote so that's how you win. That's democracy, man. That's democracy. M4s, your interpretation of the Constitution is incorrect. Read court cases. Judges interpret the intention of the statutes of the Constitution. Those judges are wrong, M4s. That's what I'm saying. There's 2 paragraphs. That's all there are. 2 paragraphs in the Constitution. Those judges inserted stuff into those 2 paragraphs that do not exist. You're wrong. Admit it. Those judges were wrong. And because you're wrong, fucking little kids get blown away with AR-15s. Pull your head out of your fucking ass. All right? This is bullshit. Little kids shouldn't go to school and get blown away with NATO rounds because someone had a bad day. It's just crap. All right? Those justices were wrong and you're wrong. Eat a dick. You might as well just go kill your kids right now. Just be like, fuck it, I don't like kids. Just blow them all away because you're obviously supporting someone else doing it. Because, my right to bear arms, therefore a bunch of kids should die. No, that's not how it works. Just be a better human. You being blind to the reality of what's in the Constitution and to the fact that those justices made up a bunch of shit that isn't in the Constitution that had nothing to do with the original intention of the statutes. The original intention of the statutes did not say, Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution is everyone should be able to protect themselves with a gun, and if that protect themselves means blowing away a bunch of little kids at a school, then I'm okay with that. That is not what the intention says. The intention of that law was, I got a musket at an armory, and when I'm called to duty, I go to the armory and I take that musket in my horn of powder and I pull that sucker out, and it takes me a minute to pour that in and stick in a wad of paper in my musket ball, and then I can shoot at somebody with the accuracy of basically throwing a baseball. And, then I got to take my horn of powder and load that in again. It wasn't for semi-automatic weapons and explosive copper casing and hollow points and cop killer bullets and fucking bazookas and handguns with 30-round magazines. Times change, and we should be able to regulate according to that. And the Constitution, the Framers of the Constitution, gave us the language to regulate and to discipline as prescribed by Congress. That's what it says right there. Clause 16, the militia, to provide organizing, arming, disciplining the militia, and for government such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers. So did Greg Abbott appoint this kid in Uvalde, Texas, as a member of the militia? I don't think so. And the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. Was this kid trained by the U.S. government by rules prescribed by Congress? Right? So, M4 is, you're right, 200 years of case law. That's hilarious. No, really, 200 years of case law. Anytime there was a regulation prior to the Heller decision, it never made it to the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court's like, this lower courts can just rule that, you take their guns away. This is the way it was. So it's only a modern invention. And if you go to NRA, They will put the Second Amendment up on the wall, and they will only put the second clause in there. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. They never put a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. A well-regulated militia. And then they'll argue and say, well, regulation meant something different back then. But if you put regulated into a Merriam-Webster dictionary from 1796, it means exactly what it means now. So you can't pull that pedantic crap with me. It's regulate. Regulate the damn militia. I'm sick of reading about mass murder constantly in the United States. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. Just since I was a senior in high school. I was a senior in high school when Columbine happened. And they tried to be like these Columbine kids, oh, they were like bullied, so we should deal with school bullying. No, the Columbine kids were the bullies. They were a bunch of racist pricks who tortured everyone else around them, and then they came to school and blew them away. They weren't bullied. They were the bullies. And now we've got kids who are survivors of Columbine, and their own kids are in school, and they're dealing with this crap. It's generational at this point. It's disgusting. You know, I can't even name all of Murfreesboro, two different Hillsboro, Oregon, and Hillsboro, Arkansas. Parkland, Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook. Like, Jesus, there's just so many of them, and they all just run together at some point. And we just need to be better. We need to be better. And we aren't going to get better for two reasons. One, we don't have universal health care. So the folks who need help can't get it. They can't afford it, and it's not available. And private insurance won't let them have it because it's expensive. Two, we don't have the laws in place or the ability to enforce those laws to regulate our militia. Hell, we haven't had a congressionally approved head of the ATF since the Bush administration. We're looking at almost 20 years without an actual congressionally approved head of the ATF. How are you supposed to regulate guns if your regulation agency doesn't even have someone to run it? It's stupid. It's what it is. We're just a stupid system full of stupid people doing stupid shit. Most Americans are mostly stupid. And we just add guns to the mix. It's so dumb. So dumb. President Trump's going to be speaking at the NRA convention, and they're banning guns from the convention. So, if it isn't guns don't kill people, people kill people, why aren't they banning the people from the convention? Think about that. And there's moments of passion when you have access to a firearm and you are enraged or whatever, and you will reach for that gun, you'll shoot somebody. Whereas if you had a cooling off period, you didn't have immediate access to that gun, that person may have lived. And those crimes of passion, that is, people are in moments of traumatic stress. They are might be manic, might be depressed, whatever. But they aren't thinking clearly, and having that quick access to a gun, even if it means like you got to take the time to do the combo lock or whatever, might slow down and save lives. And red flag laws so far in Washington have worked amazingly. Someone suicidal, showing signs of mental illness, domestic violence, whatever, they just go in, they take the guns, and that's it. And you can go to court and argue your case later, but if you're showing signs of being unbalanced or violence, they just, they regulate the militia. They take that stuff from you. If you're out of your friggin' mind and you are in, the 101st Airborne, they're not going to let you go on. They're going to send you to a counselor or hospital or something. They're going to regulate that militia, man. Okay. Said I was done ranting, and I ranted some more. You guys got me on a rant today. Just do something to stop killing little kids, please. That's all I want. Okay. Julianne, yes, maybe one day we can start cherishing our children as much as we cherish the Second Amendment. I agree. My little sister would gladly give up every gun in the world to have her friend Scott back. I know she would. She found out about the Parkland shooting that happened while she was on an airplane. She had left Florida, said goodbye to Scott and everybody, hopped on a plane and flew to go on vacation to Australia. And when she landed, she discovered Scott was dead. Like, that's gnarly, man. No one should have to go through that crap. And all because, an 18-year-old bought an AR-15 and carved a swastika into it and decided to blow away a bunch of kids. It's stupid. I can't say anything else than just stupid over and over and over again. And what's stupider is the folks who know better but are like gladly misinterpreting the Second Amendment to mean that we just what we got to put up with. Just kids blowing away other kids. Let's just laugh. No. There's a reason why the Onion headline is the only nation in the world where this regularly happens says there's nothing we can do about this. Every single time. And their entire page today is nothing but their previous articles about this crap. Over and over and over. No way to prevent this, says only nation where this regularly happens. No way to prevent this, says only nation where this regularly happens. No way to prevent this, says only nation that ever happens. No way to prevent this, says only nation. No way to prevent this. 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 This is all their previous times. They posted the same damn article every time someone went and blew a bunch of kids away or shot up their workplace or a church or a synagogue or whatever. And then the kicker, NRA sets 1,000 kid in school shooting as amount it would take for them to reconsider much of anything. NRA pushes tips for staying safe while committing a mass shooting. NRA insists the most recent mass shooting does not accurately reflect potential deadliness of firearm. It's just... This is such a genius satire that every time this happens, you see Indianapolis, Boulder, Atlanta. It's just senseless, man. It's just senseless. Yeah, it's just senseless. I just know we should be better, and we should be better. And the only way to get better is to actually do something about it. Okay. M4 is just like a liberal not understanding what natural harm means. I'm not a fucking liberal. I am way to the left of liberals. Liberals are the people who sit in the middle and go, oh, it's really sad the kids got shot, but I guess there's nothing we can do. Fuck those guys. The House passed universal background check law 2 years ago. It's been languishing in the Senate, and no senator will pick it up. Why? Because you need 60 votes in the Senate to get anything done, which is not even a law. It's just a gentleman's agreement and a handshake they had some time ago, and they just stick with it now. No. If you get 51 votes, it's passed. Without 51 votes, it's out. That's the way the Senate needs to be run. If we're going to have a stupid Senate in the first place. Right now, we have 50-50 Senate, 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans. The 50 Republicans represent 44 million fewer Americans than the 50 Democrats. That's not a democracy. If we had democracy, it would be a 60-40 split right now. But we're not. We are a crappy system designed by a bunch of slave owners. And those slave owners designed it so that the slave states would have inordinate amount of power based upon their voting populace. Only white male landowners were allowed to vote in elections when the Constitution was written. But you went to major cities like Philadelphia, Boston, New York. You had more white male landowners in those urban areas than you did in the entire states like Virginia. So they came up with the 3/5 compromise, where they made slaves 3/5 of a human being to pad the stats, and they made it proportional representation. And they used those slaves as proportional representation, even though they had no say in what happened with their lives. They were not voters. They were not even citizens. They were slaves. And that's the reason why Virginia dominated the presidential election for the first 40 years of this country. There were tens and tens and tens of thousands of more votes out of Philadelphia and out of Boston than there were in the entire state of Virginia. But Virginia still won because they had the most slaves. And that's the system that we still work on today. That's why the Electoral College exists. That's why the Senate exists, to give these slave states undue power. And it's extended into the future this way. And it was because 98% of the population was rural back then. Now, only 3% of the population is even involved in farming. So, we need to change this crap, man. We need to change it. Change it. Okay. I might just be ranting all day today. May just get a rant show. Okay. Serenity now. All right. Dakota, did you know it also takes longer to get licensed as a hairstylist than it does a cop? Yep. Talked about it on here. It's in Washington State. It's 720 hours of training to become a police officer and 2,000 hours of training to become a cosmetologist or salon technician. That's crazy. 1,500 hours to become a barber. I cut my own hair, man. It doesn't look that bad. I never did any training. I just, one day when I'm going to cut it. But if I wanted to do it for money, 1,500 hours of training, more than twice as much as it takes to become a cop. It's silly. Other nations, if you want to become a police officer, you have to get a 4-year degree and then go into training. I don't see a problem with that. I would gladly have every cop in America had a liberal arts degree before they become a police officer. I'd be okay with that. Especially in a place like Seattle, where it's like the most educated major city in America, and you have like a GED holding knuckle dragging cop trying to hassle somebody with a PhD or master's degree. It's just an imbalance right there to begin with. Like, it's make it on parity. Make if you want to be an officer in the military, you got to go to college. So if you're going to be a police officer, why shouldn't you have to go to college as well? Always on Houston's now 3 hours behind on the next show. Okay. Looks like, I can't read the name, but I think that's Korean. It says, yeah, I'm waiting for SpaceX and Starlink. That'd be nice if those went generally public. If you were someone who is able to gobble up some SpaceX stock with this latest sale because Elon needed the cash desperately, you probably got it good. Starlink also announced that they set up the systems for their like RVs and trucks and stuff, so you can get your RV outfitted with Starlink and you can get internet anywhere in the world, high speed. It's going to be fantastic. I'm waiting for SoftBank is launching their system. It should be coming soon. And Amazon announced they're going to be launching one as well, or I guess Blue Origin's going to be launching one as well. So we're going to have like 50,000 of these microsatellites just flying around, making a whole just mesh network up there. Probably mesh network as well. But it's coming, man. Black Udon, I do want to see the MCRN, the Martian Congressional Republican Navy. It's a real thing. That would be pretty weird. Oh, and the chat just reset again. All right. Hey, Naked HD Fun Webcam. Girls and boys. Hey, gay and trans. They're getting inclusive here. Naked Fun. Welcome to the party. There we go. All right. All right. Stephen Latham was Cosmic Warrior using GME Loopring Marketplace to mint and send NFTs. Is that live already? It's live. You can get your GME wallet. I need to do that. I need to see if I can get Problemo coins into Layer 2 on the GME wallet. I couldn't get it transferred into Layer 2 on Loopring, but I think the GME one allows pretty much anything to go into Layer 2. as long as it's Ethereum backed. So I am going to try, and if I can get the Problemo coins in there, then I can afford to actually start sending them to Patreon supporters. So yeah, Naked Fun Webcams is back again. Oh, back for more, huh? Naked Fun Webcams, you guys are just relentless and amazing. I am in awe at your tenacity. Ford adrenaline, 2,000 mules. Maybe we'll add some fuel to this dumpster fire. I can talk shit about Dinesh D'Souza all day long, too. Oh. No, 2,000 mules isn't real. The dude just makes shit up. That's what he does. William Morgan, criminals don't always follow gun laws. They will always find a way to get them. True. But if we make it harder to get them, then we've done our part. Such as safe storage requirements for weapons. Again, 600,000 guns a year are stolen from their legal owners. Why are they stolen from legal owners? Because they leave them in a glove box or just sitting on a cabinet or just out in the open. 600,000 guns a year are going from legal owners directly to criminals because the legal owners are not required to do safe storage of their weapons. So maybe require safe storage. And if you're going to be a member of the militia, then your superior officer should be able to come by your house and ensure that your gun is safely stored. That's part of being regulated, right? Your drill sergeant is going to make sure that your weapon is secure if you are in the military. So if you're a member of the militia, just like in Israel or in Switzerland, your superior officer can come by and make sure that your weapon is properly stored, safe and clean and everything else, up to spec and so on. So yeah, that's one way to keep criminals from getting them. All right. Chicago is doing awesome with their gun laws. Well, most of the guns from Chicago come from states like Texas and Mississippi. So unless you have a national law, it's hard to keep everyone. Because you can't set up blockades at the border. That just hurts commerce in general. So you need a federal law, and that's the whole goal. Shin Chan, this is for the rant. Love it. Also, don't forget China might be going to war with Taiwan. True. China, we're getting more reports. China's ramping up to possibly invade Taiwan. There's also reports that Xi is not doing well. He's been really ill. I saw those filter through. Yeah, let's health rumors swirl. This is Newsweek. Oh, you guys can't see. I got to put this on. So Xi Jinping apparently is sick. They won't say with what, but so diagnosed with a brain aneurysm. That's what it was, and refused surgery because of the risks. So he's not doing well at all, and he's like quite seriously ill. He hasn't really been seen in public much, and when he has been seen, he's been like dragging his leg, signs of possible stroke. So who knows what's going to be happening if because Xi just got himself basically appointed president for life. It doesn't sound like he's gonna be living much longer. So yeah. So I wonder what the rules are on invading Taiwan if Xi goes down. I don't know, but invading Taiwan will be China destroying their own economy, because the world will just stop purchasing stuff from them, and we'll either retool or move tooling out of China to somewhere else, and we'll just be using those nations for our international trade. I don't think that I don't think China can survive not having a constant inflow of hard currency from other nations. That's their entire gambit. Is they built all their infrastructure taking our money, and they build all of our products taking our money. And the minute they don't have our money to take, they have no customers. They have no way to pay their employees. Their real estate market's already collapsing. So, they may do it just like Russia invaded Ukraine and are facing the consequences now. But in everyone's mind, whenever you start a conflict, you're always going to be the winner. That's everyone's mind going into it. Like, oh, I'm going to win this thing because I'm me and I'm awesome. And but somebody has to lose. And the Nazis didn't enter World War II thinking that they're going to lose. They went thinking, I'm so much better than everyone. I'm just going to kick their asses and it's going to be over with. But everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. The old Mike Tyson adage. Yeah, and you might have a giant navy, but Taiwan is absolutely surrounded with anti-ship missiles. So do you have more navy than they have anti-ship missiles? That will be the question. Squirrel AM, China experts say the whole Xi health rumors are instigated by Xinjiang faction, which still holds power and influence of the CCP. Watch the China Insights channel and lay. I'll be curious to see if that's the case. I mean, it's happening both with Xi Jinping and with Vladimir Putin. But Vladimir Putin, we've seen videos of him looking real weird and unhealthy. But we haven't seen much of Xi Jinping out and about recently, though, which spurs those rumors. And we had the same rumors with Kim Jong-un in North Korea, that he was dying and having surgeries and all this stuff. And they're prepping his sister to take over, and then he reappeared again miraculously after whatever surgeries he had. But now I think they're terrified of COVID because none of them are vaccinated in North Korea. And there's something like 4 million people currently with COVID in North Korea. It's like 1 in 5, 1 in 4 people in North Korea have an active case of COVID, and they're just dropping like flies. And something like COVID does not care if you're rich. So if you're rich and there's a famine, well, you're still going to get money. You're still going to get food. But if you're poor during a famine, you're going to die. But if you're rich or poor in a place like North Korea where your health system sucks and you have no access to vaccines or treatments, then it doesn't matter. And if you're an overweight, already unhealthy dictator, you might not survive that COVID. 40 Ounce Oracle, Houston, you should check out the band Iron Reagan. I think you'll like it. Also, what's the first 80s crapmobile you purchased post MOASS? Ooh. Lamborghini Jalapa is awesome. I would love to be able to afford one of those. I really, really loved my Subaru XT6. That car was a lot of fun. And I'd love to get one and either swap out a WRX 4-banger or an SVX, Subaru SVX engine in it. The 3.0 liter boxer 6-cylinder. Those cars were just so wedgy 80s cool. DeLorean. I like the stuff that's just really 80s. My Subaru, I really loved my old Ford Taurus SHO. That car was also a lot of fun. And it just looked like grandma's car, but hauled ass. Yeah, I think more sedans need 5 speeds in them. They're just more fun to drive. What else, monkey butt? What would you like me to drive, huh? What would you like? What would you like? You know. Yeah. Maybe a Lamborghini LM002 military vehicle. Those things are cool too. They're the Hummers before Hummers. Yeah. So let's go with that. Let's go with that. All right. Fritz Flapor, you have a Diablo Roadster for sale. Diablos are pretty sweet. I think I like them more than more recent Lamborghinis. They're also terrifying. Blake Connolly, yes, the XTs were awesome. They were really cool. I wish my XT6 had the digital dashboard from the 4-cylinder XT, because those digital dashboards were rad. I love the one in my Corvette. It was so fun to just look at all the weird digital dials going along. They all broke like crazy because the technology was terrible. But I wish more cars had like fancy digital dashboards. It felt like driving a spaceship. Interactive brokers selling shares for 1.3 million today. Who's selling shares for of what? Yeah. Oh, yeah, a Buick Grand National GNX. That'd be pretty sweet too. Those cars, great in a straight line, can't corner for shit. Monte Carlos, along the same line, same chassis on those suckers. But yeah, I would like a Subaru SVX as well and do a manual conversion in one. You can take the transmission out of a WRX and slap them in there, and they bolt right up, and then it'd be a much more fun car to drive. Enrich Me, Houston. I had just an idea. I want to make sure short hedge funds bleed. What if they organize and plan an attack against us apes to DRS, find the real shares for them for free, thus shortening MOASS? Thoughts? Huh? They organize and plan an attack against us apes to DRS, find the real shares for them for free, thus shortening MOASS. Thoughts? I don't quite understand what you're getting at. One of my fears is that because of Reg Show, and Reg Show is the law that allows them to naked short. It's basically, you're not allowed to naked short unless you can locate shares. That they now, when they punch in their location of the shares, they say there's this many in DRS. That's the location of the shares. And then they naked short that way. That's one fear I have about the whole DRS system, is that they don't have to buy those shares. They just have to tell the government they know where they are. And they know exactly where all those shares are. They're in DRS right over there. But we are seeing the borrow rate start to go nuts. And when the borrow rate goes nuts like that on a popular stock like this, we will hopefully see some January 2021 numbers come up here. I would love that. Yeah. Blake Connolly, 90s Buick Roadmaster with faux wood paneling for me. Heck yeah. LT1 engine. My friend Boyd growing up, his mom drove one of those beasts. Sexy. Sexy station wagon. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're at the 2-hour mark. I spent an hour of it just in a rage ranting. But I still love all you guys. Even if we might disagree and you might piss me off. Well, we're here. We're here to yell at you. That's our abusive relationship, I guess. So I apologize. I didn't mean it, baby. I still love you. Let's do this again Friday. I might be doing a Twitch again tonight. So seriously, go to the description. The link for my Twitch is on there. Click on it. Follow me on Twitch, and you can join us for some GeoGuessr, where it's much more mellow and calm and zen. And we just find out where we are in the world and have nice little conversations. It's always fun. So I'll see you guys Friday. And yeah, enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your day. I'll catch you later. And one of these. Bam.